Chapter 4 Naruto Namikaze the new Pokemon Master. I would like to say thank you to all those whom reviewed. I read all of the reviews. If I did not respond to your review, that means that I am not sure about that certain thing or that I cannot reveal that information yet. I want to keep some things secret for now. I like all the follows and favorites that the story gets. But seriously guys, review. It is reviews and positive responses that give me the motivation to continue to write this story. Disclaimer. I do not own Naruto or Pokemon. They belong to their own respective owners. This is non-profit work that was simply made for fun. If I owned Naruto, the guy would know a lot more jutsu and have an awesome Kekkei Genkai like the Rinnegan. And if I owned Pokemon, Ash would be the best and actually win something other than just the Orange Islands and the Battle Frontier. Additional disclaimer. This fic will contain lemon and violence scenes. This is a warning given in advance. If you are not comfortable with that, then please leave or read at your own risk. Chapter 4. Youthful Dragon Master and Hunter J-5 days after Naruto defeated Cynthia's Garchomp. Drake was a very experienced man. He was a trainer who had fought countless Pokemon battles and sailed across many seas. He was renowned for his skills as a trainer, being hailed as one of the few people who was referred to as a dragon-type master. He had many great achievements to his name. The most notable of those accomplishments was being made the leader of Hoen's Elite Four. He had held that position for some time now. The day had started off as any other day for the man. However, that changed at around noon on the same day. Drake was relaxing on one of the many deck chairs on his ship while sipping a cup of hot coffee. It was not often that he had time to relax like this. It was a nice change of pace to say the least. Still in the midst of enjoying his hot beverage, Drake saw an incoming call on his PokeNav. Picking up the device, Drake saw that the caller was Scott, the owner of the Kanto Battle Frontier. Drake was a bit surprised to see that Scott was trying to contact him. The two of them were not the closest of people, but they were friends nonetheless. Deciding not to overthink things too much, the Elite Four member decided to answer the call. Fast forward 5 minutes later and you would be greeted with the sight of Drake spitting out his drink with such force that it would put a Poliwag's water gun to shame. This in turn caused the hot liquid to splash against the communication device, thus causing it to malfunction and shut down, and a few drops of coffee dripping onto the ship floor. Without missing a beat, Drake rushed over to find his first mate is Fitzwilliam. He needed to borrow the lad's PokeNav so that he would be able to contact Cynthia at once. His dignity was at stake here. With Cynthia, the Sinnoh League Tower was a place in Sinnoh. It was the location that was built for the Elite Four and champion of said region. Those 5 people could use the tower whenever they pleased. There were also living quarters set up for each one of them to use if they ever wanted to stay there from time to time. The tower was rather large. No, that was an understatement. It was downright huge. It was 6 stories tall. The Sinnoh Tower architecture made it resemble the appearance of a medieval castle from the olden days. The first floor of the tower was the lounge room. It was a place where most of the elites used to just laze around from time to time. This was one of the rare times when all 4 of Sinnoh's elites plus champion were in the tower at the same time. The 5 of them were on the same floor as well. Whether this was a coincidence or not, no one would know. Then again, this type of occurrence was not impossible as well either. The 5 of them did kick back and relax together every now and then. It allowed them to get away from their hectic lifestyles. Aaron, a bug-type specialist and the first member of Sinnoh's Elite Four, was currently painting a picture of his Skorupi. The scorpion Pokemon was seated on a table in front of its trainer to make it easier for him to paint. Skorupi resembled an oversized, pale purple scorpion. Its claws and tail had been swapped, giving it 2 stingers and a claw tail. Its miniature jaws, claws, and tail claws were white. Its arms were attached directly to its head, close to its teal eyes. A pointed marking joined its eyes, its head, arms, 2 tail segments, and all 4 legs were light blue, while its body, tail end, and other 2 tail segments were a darker shade of blue. Bertha, a ground-type specialist and the second member of Sinnoh's Elite Four, was talking on one of the video phones in the lounge rooms, which was located near the elevators on the floor. She was talking to her good friend Agatha, a member of Kanto's Elite Four. Bertha and Agatha had been friends for a long time. The two of them were also the longest-serving members of both of their region's Elite Four. Flint, a fire-type specialist and the third member of Sinnoh's Elite Four, was not doing anything much at the moment. He was simply sitting on one of the few lounge chairs, eating a sandwich while his feet were resting on a footrest. His Infinite was out of its Pokeball. The fire and fighting type Pokemon was sitting on the floor with its eyes closed shut, making it appear as if it were meditating. Lucian, a psychic type specialist and the fourth member of Sinnoh's Elite Four, was sitting only a lounge chair similar to the one Flint was seated on. Lucian was currently engrossed in reading an orange-colored book while adjusting his glasses every now and then. And last but certainly not least, Cynthia, the champion of Sinnoh, was seated at a wooden table at the back of the room, which was quite near the entrance. She was on her laptop. Cynthia was looking intently at her computer screen, stroking stray gold locks out of her lone visible eyeline before curling them behind her ears. After receiving the lustrous orb from Naruto, the champion of Sinnoh wasted no time as she flew to Celestic Town on her prized Garchomp before handing the lustrous orb over to the Celestic Town research team. When asked about where she got the orb from by her grandmother Professor Carolina, Cynthia had told her in private on how she had come into possession of the lustrous orb. Though Cynthia told her grandmother to tell the media and public that they were given the lustrous orb by a well-wisher as per Naruto's request. You see, Cynthia had promised Naruto that his identity would not be revealed so long as he did not want it to after he handed Cynthia the orb. So all in all, Professor Carolina was the only person who knew that a man named Naruto Namikaze was responsible for giving her granddaughter the lustrous orb, with the rest of the research team being ignorant of this fact. After dropping off the lustrous orb, Cynthia had come over to the Sinnoh League Tower in order to do a background check on the enigma that was Naruto Namikaze. Seeing as all the computers here had access to a wider database that normal ones would, it was one of the privileges given out to all the member of the Pokémon League, the Elite Four and champion of each region. You see, there was a special tower similar to this one that was built in every region to be used by the Elite Four and champion of each region. The Elite Four and champions also had access to a private server where all the members of the G-Men would store information on characters that they found to be ones to look out for, be it as potential future elites or threats to the Pokémon world. There would also be meetings held between the elites and champions from time to time so that they may discuss these topics amongst one another. Cynthia continued typing, as her gray eyes scanned the computer screen from top to bottom yet again. She was determined to get the information that she had spent oh so long searching for. She had been on her laptop searching for it for at least 3 hours now. Yet another fruitless search caused Cynthia to groan in frustration. The blonde's research was interrupted when an icon popped up on her screen indicating that there was an incoming call for her. This was one of the benefits of having a laptop such as Cynthia's. It could be used as a method of long-distance communication as well. Cynthia clicked on the icon on her computer screen, making a picture of Drake of Hoen's Elite Four pop to life on the aforementioned screen. Drake, I wasn't expecting a call from you. Is there something that I can help you with? Asked Cynthia in a polite tone. Cynthia, I have a question of utmost importance that I need to ask you, said Drake, his face turning serious. Go right ahead, said Cynthia as she raised the volume of her computer so as to allow the other occupants of the Sinnoh League Tower to hear their conversation. If it was a big deal, then it was best to let her elites know about it as well. She would regret raising the volume of her computer a few moments later. Is it true that you met a trainer named Naruto Namikaze at the Amity Square around 5 days ago? Questioned Drake. When she heard the question that the leader of Hoen's Elite Four had just asked, Cynthia could not help but think of the irony of it all. Here she was sitting at her laptop searching almost every source to see if there was any past history on the mystery that was Naruto Namikaze. only for someone else to come and ask her questions regarding the whiskered blonde whom she hardly knew much about herself. Cynthia simply responded to Drake's question with a curt nod. Is it true that he challenged you to a one-on-one battle where he used his Dragonite and you used your Garchomp? Cynthia gave another nod to Drake's second question, and Drake paused for a moment before continuing, hoping that one of his worst fears would not be confirmed. Is it true that he won that battle? Shit, thought Cynthia. It seemed like word of her loss had spread all the way to home. Cynthia did not feel ashamed of her defeat. No, not at all. But she was hoping that this piece of information would not come out so quickly. Cynthia could feel the stares of her colleagues on her once Drake's third question had been asked. Yes, it is true. He did win that battle, replied Cynthia in a slow, even tone. I see. Thank you for your cooperation, replied Drake with a small bow as he cut the call. Cynthia saw that Drake's face fell slightly as she told him of the result of the match, but she had no idea why. Hearing Cynthia admit that her Garchomp brought down by a trainer that they did not even know really shocked all of Sinnoh's Elite Four. Aaron had lost his concentration for a moment and ended up ruining his painting. Bertha and Agatha were rendered speechless. Flint choked on the sandwich he was eating and Lucian dropped his book. Wyatt yelled all of the members of Sinnoh's Elite Four as soon as Drake had ended the call. Cynthia raised her hand, telling the others to keep quiet. Man, those guys had some strong lungs to be able to yell that loud. What I am about to tell you must not leave the four walls of this room, said Cynthia as she gave the others a stern look that told them that if they did otherwise, then there would be hell to pay. After receiving their agreement, more like swearing them to secrecy unless told otherwise, Cynthia let out a huge sigh as she began to explain the events that took place that day at Amity Square. 30 minutes later, to say that Agatha, who Bertha had decided to let hear the explanation by leaving her video call ongoing, Aaron, Bertha, Flint and Lucian were impressed would be an understatement. Their interests had definitely been piqued. To think that someone was able to come up with a way to bastardize Dig so that he could use it to his advantage in battle, said Bertha. His Dragonite was able to stop your Garchomp's Dragon Rush. I think even one of my Pokemon would have been hard pressed to pull off something like that, commented Aaron. He was also able to get a hold of the lustrous orb without anyone knowing of it. We can presume that he probably has really good informants or very high stealth skills. Possibly even both, stated Agatha. He even has Alacious. Where did he come from? Did he just fall out of the sky, said Lucian as he exasperatedly threw his arms up in the sky, not knowing how right his earlier sentence was. Lucian was a bit peeved that even he, a psychic type specialist, did not have possession of one of the two legendary Eon Pokemon. I am more interested in how much strength he is hiding. To be able to create an original technique that was able to cause a giant crater to form upon impact. He is definitely the real deal, exclaimed a totally excited Flint as he fist pumped towards the ceiling of the ground floor and let out a whistle of appreciation. Beside Flint, his trusty Infinite had a glint in one of its eyes, that same glint that it only got when it was raring for a good battle. The evolved form of Monferno had found a trainer that it really wanted to test its strength against and see if it would emerge victorious. It was sure that its trainer shared the same thoughts with Drake. After the getting in touch with the champion of Sinnoh, who validated Scott's earlier claim, the aging man thanked her before abruptly cutting the connection. He then fell to the floor and began crying Animtes. Why me, wailed Drake uncharacteristically with his hands on his knees. His shipmates that witnessed the scene before them thought that the captain was just extremely stressed and simply shrugged their shoulders before walking away and continuing on with their own things. When Drake walked into the meeting room at Evergrande City for a meeting between the Elite Four and champion of the Hone region 4 days later, the eyes of his colleagues were as wide as dinner plates upon seeing his new outfit. Drake's new outfit consisted of a green jumpsuit and orange leg warmers. As soon as Drake took his seat, the circular table where the other 3 elites plus champion were seated, the aforementioned 4 people burst out laughing at the man's expense. While this was going on, Drake held his head low as he looked at the floor below, which seemed to be extremely interesting right now. I will get you for this. Naruto silently fumed Drake in his mind. If Drake had one wish right now, it would be so that he could turn back the clock and make sure he never made that stupid bet with the blonde-haired young adult 5 months ago. Tell you what, Naruto, if you ever manage to beat Cynthia's Garchomp of Lance's Dragonite in a battle without using your Latias or your starter Pokémon, then I will wear that abomination to my next meeting in Evergrande City with pride, whenever that is, slurred a drunk Drake as he pointed to the green jumpsuit that Naruto was holding. Those were the exact words that Drake had said all those days ago. He had been drunk that night, but it appeared that the blonde had videotaped that statement for good measure. That sneaky bastard. Drake made a mental note to himself to never get drunk when the blonde was around ever again. But the full details of this incident is a story for another day. In actuality, Naruto did in fact challenge Cynthia with the purpose of testing his strength and to make a name for himself. Cynthia using her Garchomp in that one-on-one battle and Naruto's Dragonite emerging victorious was just an added bonus for the blonde. And the day that Drake learned of this, he would think that he had the worst luck in the world. It is just too bad that the Dragon Master never met the Slug Princess, Tsunade Senju. Those two might have actually gotten along quite well. Minus 1 week after Drake's meeting at Evergrande City, Ash, Dawn and Brock were currently in a forest nearby Mt. Coronet. The trio were looking at a Pokémon which none of them had come across previously. It was a small, yellow, Ceratopsian-like reptilian Pokémon. It had white toes and a white bump on its back. It had a dark gray elliptical face, with a prominent white brow and a white rim on its black snout. Who's that Pokémon? Asked Ash more to himself than anyone in particular as he took out his Pokédex and scanned said Pokémon. Shieldon. The shield Pokémon. The skin on its face is very hard and it has a habit of polishing it by rubbing it against trees. It is weak to attacks from behind, said the mechanical voice of the Pokédex. Dawn. Do you realize what a rare Pokémon that is? Asked Brock with a hint of excitement in his voice. The fact that Sheldon was part rock type contributed to the Pokémon breeder's excitement. Well, it sure is cute. Just look at those eyes, said Dawn as let out a squeal. Thud. The admiring of the Shieldon was abruptly halted by the sound of a huge tree hitting the ground. Ash, Dawn and Brock snapped their heads in the direction where the noise of the falling tree came from, only to see a huge black vehicle that was quickly moving towards their current location. The top of the vehicle opened up and out came a man wearing a black and gray colored suit. It's them. That's one of Hunter J's goons, said Ash, recognizing the man immediately. You know they just want to steal the Shieldon and sell it, said Brock, who was now more alert than he was a few moments ago. Pikachu, use Thunderbolt now, said Ash. Pikachu was a short, chubby rodent Pokémon. It was covered in yellow fur, and its ears were long and pointed with black tips. It had a small mouth, brown eyes, and 2 red circles on its cheeks. There were pouches inside its cheeks where it stored electricity. Its forearms were short, with 5 fingers on each paw, and its feet had 3 toes. It had 2 brown stripes on its back, and its tail was in the shape of a lightning bolt with a patch of brown fur at the base. Yellow sparks appeared around Pikachu's tail and cheeks as it released a powerful bolt of yellow electricity from its body at the henchman. Go Golbert, use wing attack, said the henchman as he released his own Pokémon in response. Golbert was a large, blue bat-like Pokémon with purple wing membranes. It had small eyes with slit pupils and a massive mouth containing 4 fangs. Golbert had a long, purple tongue. Its pointed ears were tiny, and it had short legs with long, thin feet. Golbert repeatedly dived down to avoid the thunderbolt. Its wings began to glow white before it struck Ash's Pikachu with one of its wings, sending the yellow rodent sprawling backwards onto the ground. Pikachu, are you okay? Asked a worried Ash as he hastily rushed over to his starter Pokémon's side. I have just about had it with you kids, said henchman who used the Golbert earlier as he began to move forward to get his hands on the Shieldon, a second henchman following closely behind. A loud call of flash cannon was heard before a silver energy beam was fired at the Golbat. The power behind the attack knocked the poison and flying type Pokemon out. Soon a trainer with his loyal Jackal Pokemon walked up and stood beside the cap-wearing trainer from Pallet Town. Upon seeing this person brought upon mixed reaction from the two parties. One party was happy while the other was scared to death. "Fuck. What is he doing here?" mumbled the first grunt to himself. His face had paled considerably and he even had a sheen of sweat on his forehead. His face had become so white that it resembled that of one snake salmon. "Let's get out of here. We have to inform Jay of his presence immediately," said the second henchman as he and his partner quickly got into the vehicle they came in earlier and sped off at said vehicle's top speed. "Naruto, why didn't you stop those two just now? Your Lucario definitely had enough power to do it," Ash asked the person standing on his left. Naruto returned his Lucario to its Pokeball with silent thanks to the Jackal Pokemon before opening his mouth to respond, only to promptly shut it a short moment later when he heard some rustling from the bushes behind him. "Shieldon," exclaimed an individual with an Electivire as he ran towards the group's current location. Electivire was a humanoid creature covered in yellow fur with black stripes. It appeared to lack a neck, and had red eyes, a black spot on its forehead, and a pair of antennae with bulbous tips. A pattern on Electivire's back resembled an electric outlet. The fur on its cheeks and shoulders was spiky and ruffled. Its two black tails had red tips. Electivire had black feet with 3 clawed toes, and 5 black fingers on each one of its hands. "Alright, you're okay," said the same individual as got down on one knee and spread his arms invitingly. This individual had fair skin, brown hair and black eyes. He was wearing a black collared shirt, a pair of navy blue jeans and a pair of black sneakers. He had a white colored pouch around his midsection and was carrying a gray knapsack. This person was Gary Oak, the grandson of renowned Pokemon researcher Professor Oak. The shield Pokemon quickly ran straight at the Gary, who brought said Pokemon into a gentle embrace. "Gary, what are you doing here?" asked Ash as walked over to meet the person now known as Gary. "No time to explain, Ash. Let's go, Electivire," said Gary as he handed the Shieldon to his Electivire. He then headed off in the direction of the west with Ash trailing behind him. "Dawn, Naruto, let's go too," said Brock. Without another word, the three of them began moving down the same route that Gary and Ash had just taken. The scene changes to a location high in the skies. It is here that we are able to see a humongous black aircraft. Inside what was presumed to be the main room of the aircraft, a woman who looked to be in her 20s or 30s was seated on a chair as she looked at the screen in front of her. She had silver hair and blue eyes. This woman was Pokemon Hunter J. She was currently talking to one of her henchmen whose face was shown on the screen mentioned above, which worked in a similar manner to the video phones at Pokemon centers. "This is Scouting Party 1. The target was being located at the foot of Mt. Cornet," said the henchman who used the Golbat earlier. "As I figured it would." "What happened?" asked Jay. "We were attacked by a trainer with a Lucario and were unable to capture the Shieldon." "Unable to capture?" questioned Jay with a slight edge in her voice. She had also raised her voice a little when voicing this. "But Commander, you don't understand. It wasn't just any trainer. It was him. We ran into Namikaze," exclaimed the henchman as he waved his hands in front of his face to show Hunter J that he was not at fault. "What?" bellowed Jay. She had gripped the armrests of the chair she was sitting in tightly once she heard the name of the person who had gotten in the way of her men. "You have been a pest in my side for some time now, Namikaze. This time I will get you back," thought Jay. "What were the coordinates of the location where your encounter with that vermin took place?" asked Jay to her henchman on screen. "When we met, it was around coordinates 905. Commander," answered the henchman. "That is all I need to know," said Jay as she stood up and cut the call with her henchman from earlier. "Surround coordinates 903 to 906. Failure is not an option here. I will not let him get away," ordered Jay. "Yes, Commander," replied one of Jay's many workers who were in the same room of the ship as her. The airship landed on the ground below. before it opened up and many similar van-like vehicles drove out of said airship. With Naruto, Ash, Dawn, Brock and Gary. Naruto, you never really answered my question from earlier, you know, said Ash as he glanced at the blonde. The answer is simple. Those goons are of no concern to me. Jay will still come after the shield, and even if they are captured, she will not hesitate to sacrifice her men either, stated Naruto in a cold tone. He disapproved of Jay's method. The way Jay treated her workers like they were disposable really pissed Naruto off. But why were those men so afraid of you? Asked Dawn. Let's just say that I have stopped Hunter Jay once or twice before on my journey through Sinnoh and leave it at that. Those two men earlier already know not to mess with me. They may have gained some backbone if they were in a large group, but alone those two probably knew that there was no chance of them emerging victorious, explained Naruto. So Gary, you are out here doing Pokemon research? Asked Ash, changing the topic, while he and others followed Gary to wherever he was leading them. That is right. It seems like a lot has happened since I last saw you, answered Gary. So you are Naruto. My grandfather certainly spoke a lot about you when I last talked to him a few days ago. He said that you managed to beat Cynthia in a battle and that you also had a legendary Pokemon, said Gary as he looked at Naruto. Naruto raised an eyebrow in curiosity. And just how does your grandfather know about me? Asked Naruto. Word of your achievements has begun to spread really fast. All those whom saw your battle with Cynthia and your usage of Latius to battle Team Rocket have probably told those close to them. And those people would tell others, and so on and so on. It was Brock who replied to Naruto. Well, it seems that quite a few people do know about me now. Though I wonder whether it will be a good thing or a bad thing due the rate of which this news has spread. I expected it to be at least a month or so before something like this happened. Contemplated Naruto in his mind. Oh well, this just makes things all the more fun. Let's see where things go from here. Watch out, world. Here comes Naruto Namikaze. If you don't mind, Naruto, could I see your Latius later? Asked Gary with excitement and hope in his voice. Any researcher would have probably reacted the same. Maybe later, once this matter with the Shieldon is over, replied Naruto nonchalantly as he waved a hand in the air. After some more walking, the group, Ash, Dawn, Brock, Gary and Naruto, came across 3 more Shieldon. Upon seeing them, the Shieldon from earlier ran over to meet his friends. Oh wow, there is a whole bunch of them, exclaimed Ash, excited at seeing the group of Pokemon. It is the only place in the region where Shieldon live, stated Gary as he looked at the 4 Shieldon who were happily playing with one another. You have been doing your research for sure, said Brock, impressed at how knowledgeable Gary was. Of course. This is an awesome place. I am part of a project that is working to make this whole place into a nature preserve to protect the Shieldon, said Gary as he took out his laptop from his knapsack and began typing on it. Soon a picture of Professor Rowan appeared on screen. Yes, Gary. What is it? Asked Professor Rowan. Gay then told the Pokemon professor of the events that had taken place earlier with Hunter Jay's men. What? You mean to tell me that there are Pokemon hunters there? Spoke Professor Rowan with worry as he was not expecting something like this. And it is not safe at all. I am taking these Shieldon and leaving, replied Gary. Alright. We are already on our way there. We will be there shortly, so I suggest that we meet at this location, informed Professor Rowan as a map popped on Gary's laptop screen and a spot on the map began glowing orange, indicating it was the location that Professor Rowan mentioned earlier. With Hunter Jay. Back in the main room of Hunter Jay's airship, we see said Pokemon hunter in the midst of yet another video call, this time with one of her clients. It is good to see that you are doing well, Pokemon Hunter Jay. Now, I would like to ask about a certain Shieldon that I have commissioned you to get for me, said a spectacle-wearing man with spiky hair over the screen. He was dressed in a business suit and was wearing a tie. He had 2 other men standing beside him who were presumably either his associates or bodyguards. Don't worry, you will have your first Shieldon by the end of the day today, just as we agreed, assured Jay in a confident tone. Well now, that is excellent news. Pokemon Hunter J. The idea that I will be the proud owner of such a rare Pokemon pleases me greatly. So would it be possible for me to come and pick up the Shieldon directly from you? Inquired Jay's client. Do as you like, said Jay, who was not really bothered with how the man got the Shieldon so long as she got her pay. Then I will be on my way there immediately. Thank you, stated the client as he cut the call. With Naruto, Ash, Dawn, Brock and Gary. This is bad. Hunter Jay's henchmen are practically all over the place, said Naruto as he peeked his head out of a bush that he and the others were currently hiding behind. It seemed that Jay had deployed a huge majority of her forces to corner them. It appears as if all possible escape routes are blocked off, stated Brock. Oh yeah, well I will block all of them off, said Ash with conviction in his voice as he prepared to leave the hiding place and go teach all the crooks a lesson. Shut up and think with a calm head, Ash. If you don't keep your voice down then we will be discovered for sure. Sometimes I wonder if there is anything in that skull of yours at all. You are way too reckless, whispered Naruto into Ash's ear as he bonked the Pallet Town native on the head before using his other hand to cover the boy's mouth. He's right, Ashy boy. We need to form a plan and quick. This type of recklessness will only put the Shieldon in more danger, lectured Gary. So what do we do now, asked Dawn. We will have to change our route and go around all of Hunter Jay's men. There is a river to the north and a deep valley farther to the south. It is really going to be hard bringing all those Shieldon with us. We have got to find a way to get to Professor Rowan. The question now is how do we do it, said Gary. Actually, I might have a solution. But you have to promise to keep what you see a secret, said Naruto as he looked at each and every one of them, deciding to trust them. Ash, Dawn, Brock and Gary. Naruto took out a Pokeball and let out his very first Pokemon. Upon seeing the aforementioned Pokemon, Gary Oak's jaw dropped so low that it was in danger of hitting the ground. How in the 7 layers of hell did you get your hands on that Pokemon, choked out Gary in a raspy voice. End chapter. Well, that concludes the 4th chapter of this fic. Next chapter you guys get to see one more of Naruto's Pokemon as well as a battle between Naruto and Pokemon Hunter J. Recently, I have hit a writer's block and do not have enough ideas. So I will need help from you guys out there. I need some suggestion from you guys on certain things. 1. What episodes in canon do you want Naruto to appear in? He will not appear in all of them, just some. Mostly those that are important. The other chapters will consist of events that are non-canon as well as some flashbacks. 2. I still need more suggestions on how to develop Naruto and Cynthia's relationship. 3. Any other ideas for future events? 4. Any battles you guys want to see? It would be easier if you can give me a situation. 5. What Pokemon you want Naruto to have? Try to include a backstory of how he met said Pokemon and why you feel he should have that Pokemon. I have decided that Naruto will only have 12 Pokemon in this fic so as he can manage them all better and keep them around the same strength level. Don't bother flaming as I will block and ignore you. Depending on if I can get enough ideas on what to write, the next chapter could be out in a week or maybe even as long as 2 months. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the chapter. See you soon. Peace.